Let's go admit.
Hi, Anthony. You okay?
Hello, Christina. I'm okay. How about you?
It's all fine. So, how do you want to do? Are you going to be asking me questions, or do you want me to kind of repeat and put the questions into my answers, or how do you want to do it?
So basically, all I'm after is just a conversation, just a casual chat like we're having right now.
Yeah.
The main goal of this podcast is to gather people from all different backgrounds of couple dancing together.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, all spectrum of couple dancing, and just take it from different angles and different perspective.
No worries, mate. I'm already. Yeah, I'm there. So let's begin.
So if you're ready, 5, 6, 7, 8. Welcome to Along the Life of Dance with your host, Anthony B. Today, I am with former professional dancer from the BBC show Strictly Come Dancing, Christina Rianoff. During this episode, we discuss about the cultural differences between America and Russia, yoga, American rhythm, how to adapt to those new ways of teaching, and of course, Strictly. Another great episode full of content for your own pleasure. Enjoy our show, and thank you once again for listening to Along the Life of Dance. Hi, Christina. How are you doing?
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's been a long day, but it's nice to sit down and have a little chat.
Yeah, all nice. Thank you very much for accepting the offer. Very, very appreciate it. Just to start with, if you would be able, please, to introduce yourself. So again, your name and basically just a bit of your background.
Yes.
Everybody in UK knows you, and it's half of Europe also. But I have to make it official for the last two people that haven't heard of you.
That's okay. I'm sure there's lots of people who probably haven't heard of me, but my name is Christina Rihanov. That's what I'm known by that name, mostly in the UK and also in the US. But back in Russia, I was born back in Russia in Vladivostok, and my name actually known as Kristina Pshenichnik. But when I moved to the States and during competition time, and also then moving on to TV work, last name like Pshenichnik is quite difficult to pronounce. So I had to take a name, my mother's maiden name. So that's how it's all appeared.
Okay, great. So when did you move to the States?
So I moved to the States in 2001. I was 23 years old. And by that time, Russia obviously was already just Russian Federation. It was no longer USSR, and we were able to travel. We were able to travel to other countries, and it's something I never thought I would explore because simply it wasn't in the radar when I was growing up. I already had my big, quite successful dance school at the age of 21, and I was taking the kids to local competitions and around the country to perform. So I never really thought I will be going abroad. It wasn't never really my goal. But then a lot of my friends were actually leaving and competing in different countries like Germany and Bulgaria and other sort of European countries. And so what happened was that when I was younger and I competed a lot, actually in Japan and China, because on my side of Russia, this is where we go because it's actually much closer. It's only 2 hours flight to Tokyo, where it's like to Moscow, it's 8 hours flight. We used to go there, and I befriended a really great girl. She was from St. Petersburg, and then she moved to the States. Her name is Julia Gorchikova, and she was there for many, I believe, 13 years.
Okay.
American rhythm champions with her husband. And so we kind of got connected again through a mutual friend, through a mutual judge. And she was saying, look, I have so many studios in America, which looking for Russian speaking teachers, because there's so many Russian families moving to the States. And all the kids obviously really massively into dancing, but they haven't learned the language, so they just sort of were scouting and taking teachers there, organizing the travels, and that's really how I moved to the States. Okay. So I first I got offered kind of a place in New York studio. It wasn't appealing at that time to me, and so eventually I moved to Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
And so this is kind of my journey started there. Yeah.
All right. So New York, Seattle, anywhere else in the States you've been? after that?
I've been to many, many places in the States. I've lived in Seattle for 7 years of my 8 years in the States. And then I
Okay.
moved for the last year to LA because what happened was that I stopped actually my competitive career by that time. And the TV show Dancing with the Stars, which is known in the States quite a lot. It's equivalent of Strictly Come Dancing in England and the UK and around the world. It's the same format, just two different names.
Yep.
Was already a very big show. And one of my dance teachers, Louis Van Amstel, he was one of the first dancers on that show, but he was also a choreographer for the upcoming tour. And so when he knew that I stopped competitive career, he asked me to join the cast, and I moved to LA that way to Seattle, from Seattle, just because it was kind of made sense. So I spent about a year in LA, and then I spent my first year, which I worked in the UK, but was still coming back to the US, obviously, and I still was based in LA for quite some time, and then I moved permanently to London.
Okay, so I would imagine, so this is the show that brought you from LA to London then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, exactly. So the show was all produced by British side, everything and everyone there was from the original show here. So at the end of the tour, when I was saying kind of like, well, I would like to actually get onto the actual show if possible, or to be part of the show in some way. And capacity, they said, look, we kind of full at the moment here in the US, but we know that the UK side is looking for extra girl and extra boy. And my dance partner at that time, Brian Fortuna, he was kind of the same as me. We just didn't really had anything holding us back, and wanting to explore. And we just went, we obviously, the producers of the US side introduced us to the British side, and we came for a very long interview and very long sort of thing we had to do. And yeah, that's how it all started. We basically flew in, did our on camera kind of interviewed, and had to show how we teach a beginner, kind of show our skills. It was a proper process at that time. And yes, 4 months later, we got the job. Got the phone call.
Oh, wow. So from LA to London, and I take it that was the first time that you arrived in London then?
So I've been actually to the UK before, would you believe? It was back in Russia. I think it was 98 when we came here, or 97. I can't exactly remember. And we did come with my dance partner back then for competitions, and so the Albert Hall and performances. There was international, so it was October. And it was absolutely, do you know what? Recently I was kind of looking through my old photographs and kind of cleaning the house, and I saw those pictures, when I was 19, I think. And so I can't even remember. I mean, obviously need to have a think about the years, so I'm not sound like a complete...
We won't say it.
Complete liar. But, so it was 98, I think it was, or 99, something like that around that time. And so I have a picture on Oxford Street with the bus behind me, and then Madame Tussauds as well. And it was a crazy experience, really. When you're from Russia, you don't speak a word of English, and it's still kind of all completely new to even be able to travel, to the UK. So that was my first visit, and I never, ever thought I will be back to the UK. It was just the last of my thoughts, the last kind of place I thought I would be going and moving to.
Well, you never know. I mean, I think I had the same trip as you did, but in reverse. I ended up in Latvia for 10 years in England. So I get the feeling. Right. So you said you were Russia, a few holidays, in England, then America, then in England. Now you retired from Strictly Come Dancing, from what I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you started your own dance school in the UK?
I did. Yeah, it's all kind of came about really after I had my little one, and I was looking for sort of what the next thing is, really, because of course I'm going to always dance and or teach dancing, so kind of in some shape or form being in that world. But for many, many years, I mean, to be exact, 20 years, I was a big yoga devotee, and I started yoga back in the US, went to Bikram studio with my dance partner, and I just thought it was the most awful experience of my life. But then it's just my body was craving it. I absolutely love that feeling of heat and humidity, and just feeling that my body can expand and go further. And it became kind of our ritual. We would go to like Bikram class every evening, 4 or 5 times a week, definitely before competition, to settle the nerves, to kind of prepare the body. And I just got really so much into it, but I was never like on the spiritual side. It was almost like, it was more on the physical side. That's how I view it. But when I look back now, and actually I remember, like before big competitions like nationals, in Miami, because it's also heat and humid, I would go by the pool and do like a couple of what we call vinyasa flow sequences, like 10-15 minutes, like downward facing dog, and to sort of press up and all that. And other dancers would just stare at me and think that I'm completely fell off the sky because they're like, what is she doing? And then before like we go on the floor as well, people would do like in the corner cha-cha-cha basic, and I would do like breathing exercises, and they all think that I was completely probably nuts. But it's in the way at that time, even without really thinking about that much, it was just my body led me to that place where I was most comfortable, balanced, and united, in the way, mind, body, spirit kind of way. And so subconsciously, this is where I wanted to be. And that helped me so much with competitions and so on. Right. And so after I had Mila, and I kind of had that urge to really go back to yoga, because my body was very kind of foreign body to me. After pregnancy, I felt like I completely can't feel any core muscles, any muscles at all. And I wanted to go back to something like a gentle, low impact, but so I can kind of progress with. And of course, I went back to yoga, found a studio nearby, and started going back. And, all these feelings came back to me, how incredible it made me feel overall. And then I read that studio was putting up a teacher training. And, it's kind of like, was a light bulb. That's it. This is it.
That's my moment. Yeah.
This is what I want to do. Yeah. So it was kind of beginning of that journey, what I do now, because I opened a wellbeing center more than over a year ago, but it feels like a year ago because we've been locked down forever now. So I opened this actually June 2019. And, it's a wellbeing center called So Yoga, SOO Yoga. And we do all sorts of styles of yoga, literally starting from baby yoga with mothers after pregnancy, prenatal, postnatal, for elderly, all in between, all holistic sides, and advanced classes and power classes and so on. But we also do other things, of course. And as well as that, I also teach my dance classes there. So it's sort of a hub of everything, if you wish. So I have other teachers too, but myself and my partner Ben, we do obviously most of the classes.
Okay, so it's a Christina center.
It's kind of, I guess so.
There's a bit of that.
A bit of that.
Okay. And so how many type of dances? You've always taught and trained people for couple dancing, or you've also done solo dancing? Because you have the yoga, maybe you've done also something similar in terms of dance, or you've always been training people for ballroom Latin and that was it?
Yeah, back in Russia, there was no really other, I didn't do any other styles. I did ballet as a little girl, but not for actual like ballet sort of performances or anything. In fact, when my mom took me to ballet school when I was 5, and because obviously every little girl at that age wants to be ballerina, they said, look, she has no natural turnout in her hips, because that's how my hips are structured. And they said it would be really difficult, style of dance for her. So why don't you put her, she obviously can hear the music very well, feel the beat. And why don't you put her into like ballroom dancing or folk dancing? And back then in Russia, we're talking about beginning of 80s, like 82, 83, ballroom dancing was not what it is now. It was kind of a mixture of, we learned the cha-cha-cha, we learned the waltz, but then it was other kind of dances. They're not really now they weren't I would say they were like a modern kind of mix of dances, and they were couple dances. So yeah, but I did do others, because in our school we can just did a little bit of ballet and freestyle, but it was kind of an add-on. I wasn't really trained in that much, if you wish. So it was always definitely ballroom and Latin. Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but then when I moved from Russia to the States,
Right.
and I was teaching still ballroom and Latin, I started competing in a different style, which exists only in the US and also Canada, but it's really massive actually. It's called American Rhythm, and there's
Right.
also American Smooth. And American Rhythm is such a fabulous like style. It's more like perhaps authentic Latin style of dances. You also have a cha-cha-cha, then you have a swing. West Coast, East Coast, obviously swing, everybody knows Canada. So you do swing dance, you do bolero and rumba, but it's a very fast rumba. So it's a Cuban rumba. It's kind of what we call square rumba. And you have mambo. So more of like authentic dances. And it was quite interesting transition because I had to really kind of dive into the deep world of salsa clubs and go out there and see what people do actually more in a social level to really understand the kind of the vibe. And then I started teaching that too, and I kind of got a bit more into it, like a salsa mambo steps. I loved it because it was very different. There was so much freedom, and so much cool things. Yeah, so it was really great kind of transition.
So you had the old transition from an old classical, let's say classical way of seeing dancing from Russia into a more modern approach to it with America.
Yeah.
Is there one in there? Which one did you not like so much from America, for example? Or when you hear this, like, oh, not again?
I don't really know. It's hard to say. I think when I came to the States, it was such a shock altogether because, again, I obviously didn't know much about the country. You grew up in Soviet Russia, so you know very little about America. It was all that Cold War time, and it's not that I really understood what it was, but you still had very, very limited information about the country. And, you don't speak the language, so that's really hard. And I found what found really difficult, which kind of, I laugh at it now, but, I suppose Russians come across like a very serious a type of nation. We don't really smile. We kind of don't laugh. People say we don't have a sense of humor, which I actually think is completely the opposite. Our Russians love to laugh. We have a quite kind of fun, I think, outgoing personalities, but that's within the family and friends. And I think, yes, maybe for outside world or for someone who don't know us, we're quite sort of guarded and so on. So when I moved to the States, it was maybe a couple of weeks in, my dance partner said, look, I have to speak with you about something. I said, yes, what's going on? And he said, look, a few people in dance school was saying they kind of concerned about your behavior. And I was like, well, what's wrong with my behavior? I had to look it up in the dictionary because obviously I don't know what behavior is. He would write it down and kind of trying to explain that there is some kind of trouble. And I was like, what is it? And so, and then he said, well, because you're always so down and you're so unhappy. And I was like, what do you mean I'm unhappy? Well, you never smile. You never sort of really greet anyone. Like we always say, hi, how are you? And we smile. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, how are you? Are you actually
expecting an answer?
Yeah. And it was very unusual concept for me because I couldn't understand why they asking people who they don't know, how are you? Like I was saying, well, he's not your friend. Why are you asking?
I had the same experience here.
Yeah, it's just really.
When I moved to Latvia and I had a job interview with the boss who would hire me eventually, I was doing the same thing. I came back from Britain after 9 years and just being polite at the end of the interview, I said, I hope I did well. And he looked at me and I said, well, I'm not crying. And he left. And you're just like, okay, that's, I guess, if you don't cry, that's your standards. If there's no tears, then you're doing well.
So that was quite interesting. But I said, well, we just don't have that in kind of our country. Because if I walk down the street in Russia, smiling at everybody and saying, how are you? They probably will think that I am mentally not very well, that there is something else going on in my head. But obviously, yeah, it's a big cultural difference. People in the store, anywhere you go, that's what they say. How are you? And you're not answering back. Because to me, I couldn't understand the concept. I said, well, do I need to answer how I'm doing? Can I say I'm not feeling that great today? He said, no, you're not supposed to say any of that. Don't say anything. Say, I'm fine. But I said, what if I'm not fine? He said, still say I'm fine. So
I'm not really asking you anyway.
Yeah.
Just don't say it anyway.
So it was a little bit of a weird thing to adapt. And I was for a long time thinking what a silly, really way to kind of greet somebody. But, after living there for 7-8 years, you adapt it. Obviously it becomes your second nature, which it is now. Obviously you go and you ask things like that. I guess it just helps because you grew up in a different kind of environment, and
it's a culture thing.
Yeah, it just was a little bit shocking at that time.
So in terms of culture, you had a bit of a clash there and a bit of a revelation. Maybe not so much in the learning, because I would imagine the learning method would be in correlation with the culture. But in terms of perception, how do students receive information or deal with information in America compared to Russia? I know you said when you arrived in America, you were teaching Russian families.
Yeah, I did.
But eventually you must have taught American guys. Did you find a difference in terms of teaching?
Yeah, I did do. Yeah, it was very different, I must say, because the thing is, it's, I guess, there is a different ways of taking in information. With Russian kids, I felt like theory would come before the showing something. Okay. This is how I was taught. You talk about the theory, right, of some kind of, I don't know, movement or step, and you really explain it in depth, and then you show it, and then the kids kind of trying to do that, and they would ask you questions. It was very different with the American kids. I kind of had to show many, many times, and they would copy, and then, you would not really asking questions, but then I would say, okay, well, let's correct it a little bit this way or that way, and then explain a bit more. So it was a little bit maybe different, I don't know, in the sense that it was very much show then tell to the American kids, but then with Russians, I found it was tell and then show. So it was kind of a different way, yeah.
A bit like Zumba does nowadays, where you don't really explain much. You have to keep up with the movement and you just go with it.
In a way, yeah. That was more of that kind of nature I felt, yeah.
American way. No, interesting. So I'm always fascinated with culture.
Yeah.
There's always something, and you never expect if it's on a plate or if it's actually on the dance floor. No, that's great. Right. I'd like to talk about maybe your business more and what's happened to you now in the UK. You say you are doing yoga classes and you're also doing dancing. I would like to see the correlation between the two, but let's start with maybe dancing first. Which did you find there is a style that's a bit more popular nowadays than, say, when you arrived in the UK?
Was there more popular style here in the UK?
Yeah. So did you realize that there's more of a demand in Latin, in ballroom, maybe in mambo, or did you realize there's something changing at the moment?
Well, no, in the UK, do you know, when I arrived to the UK, it was all about Strictly. So I think my training in different styles became really handy. And because we moved together with Brian from the States, we could show and do a different styles on the floor, mambo. They would ask us to do solos for Strictly, which was very different from before. We did bolero and we did hustle, which I knew a little bit about, and Brian was really good at it, and because he used to teach it in his mom's studio, and mambo and so on. So it was quite exciting for us because we could bring kind of what we knew from the States to Strictly, and maybe start at a bit of a a new wave of things on the show, because it was very, very traditional when we joined. it was always obviously just ballroom Latin and maybe Argentine tango and Charleston. There was no ever other styles there. And so because the producers understood that we can show some other things, we kind of started doing those solos, which were fun, and we eventually were asked to choreograph group numbers as well with those styles. So it was just quite an interesting process. And yeah, it was really exciting to show off what we could do, So
did you find any? So you said you were using yoga back in the competition time already.
Yeah.
Then you moved. You had your career here, and you were retiring, and then the baby girl. You came back to yoga afterwards to get some, like you said, low impact core.
Yeah.
What was the link between the dancing and the yoga?
Yeah.
To you, do they complement each other, or do they merge into the same feeling?
I think they absolutely match made in heaven in my mind, because when we start going to yoga, like my dance partner, that was the first thing he kind of said to me after literally it was second day in the US. He said, all dancers go to yoga. Let's go try it out. I mean, I had zero understanding what yoga was. I came from Russia. I've never even heard of that. I mean, I've heard something, and it was something, I don't know, very far away when people sitting and oming and chanting all day. So I never really thought about it. And he could have asked me to go and jump off the building, and it would be the same thing in my head. So, like I said, I went to that studio and I walked into that very hot and absolutely crazy hot studio with 40 other people in there. And I thought, this is hell, literally, we're all burning in here. And I really didn't enjoy that first experience. But the next day, when we start practicing, all of a sudden I felt such lightness in the body, and I felt I could really expand and go further and all this. And I was like, wow, And then this evening he was like, yoga? With thumbs up, and I was like, okay, let's go, So it kind of became really addictive for me, because the way I just felt afterwards, relaxed, calm, exhausted, but in a good way, and always the next day, it kind of gave me that amazing feeling on the floor. So obviously, I wanted to have it part of my training, and then the more I spoke to other dancers, and honestly, I mean, we in my kind of my time in my career, I had the pleasure to work with people like Slavik Kriklibi, who a lot of dancers would know. He obviously was one of the best male dancers ever, in the finals. And then Hannah cartooned with Paul Kilik, both of them, Slavik and Hannah, was saying to me they were absolutely addicted to yoga, and it was also part of the regime. And a lot of other dancers and a lot of ballet dancers, I knew was going there. When we would go around the country, to New York, all the kind of dancers from New York dancing would go to yoga. They took us to the local hot yoga, Bikram yoga as well. So it was kind of literally what my partner was saying, all dancers go to yoga. So it was really big in the US. And I, at the beginning, obviously, I still couldn't work it all out. But then the more you do it, you kind of understand how much good it does for your body, endurance. And also because yoga is based on that breath work and fluidity of movement, I find it very similar to dancing. And obviously nowadays, especially most of yoga classes you go to, they taught to music. They taught to different style of music, everything from meditation when it's nice and relaxing to quite fast paced, of that sort of more like a flow or para yoga. So I feel like you're really moving as you would do in dancing, quite a lot of it based on balance, on your understanding of your posture, your axis, elongating your back, using your core, working on your stability. I think it improves dancing so much, and vice versa. You become so much more in tune with the body, but also mind-body connection, because dancers, I mean, I wasn't spiritual whatsoever, when I started yoga. In the sense, not that I don't believe in something, but it's just my own spirituality, sort of dancing was something I did, and that was it. It was more kind of about always physical aspect of that. But when I started doing yoga, I really kind of embraced that, and the whole me kind of within that dance world from yoga perspective. I learned to breathe properly during my dance performances. Gave me an amazing mind focus, an amazing endurance on the floor, mentally and physically. So I definitely think that the way my competitive sort of dancing progressed was a lot to do with yoga, big time. So, and also protected me from injuries, 1,000%. Because that is something which is known, that yoga, if you practice obviously well and safe, and you know what you're doing, and you kind of studying that definitely helps so much with body recovery, with keeping you away from injuries. So, and a lot of dancers would kind of say the same, I think. So thankfully, touch wood, throughout my competitive career and on Strictly, I never had a major injury which would take me off the dance floor, for a while, where a lot of my partners and a lot of dancers I know in general all had some kind of issues with the lower back, with the neck, with the knee problem, with the ankle problem. So I honestly kind of always say that's because of yoga. For me, I had injury-free professional career. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you might sign me up for it at the minute, because I've got between sitting on the chair all day, my neck, my back, and my ankle is exactly where my weak points are at the minute. So I think I might end up in one of your classes soon.
Yeah, that definitely would help. Yeah, you need to have a go, just because it's so important, especially now when we do sit in place for so long and doing so much work online. It's just a must, really. And you can really literally spend 10-15 minutes with some breath work and exercises. Like, I think something I do, I teach chair yoga for like office yoga, they are right now saying that. So yeah, it's just a good kind of thing to explore a little bit.
Okay. And so you've been teaching yoga online, I imagine now, and dancing also. What did you... I suppose my question is, I've been trying to teach online also recently, and I'm sure now many of dance teachers that would be listening to this, or even students that will be listening to this, are having this challenge. When you used to be in a class with, even if it's 10 people, and somebody in the back of the room doesn't get it. Everybody knows who this is, but we don't need to say a name. You put the music on, and you can say next time the music stops, okay, for those who don't get it, do this. And then if he still doesn't, he or she doesn't get it, the next time you put the music on, you can just still go in a corner, say, look, mate, left foot, right foot, off you go. You haven't disturbed the class. But nowadays with the online class, even if you have to explain to somebody, first, if you can see them, because when you have 15 people on your screen, unless you have a cinema setting on your wall to be able to see everyone, I think it's a bit tricky to see everybody. But it's difficult. I think this is what we've been missing into it. I think personal session or private lessons don't get so affected by online or physical, because you can still work on something. And a bit like yoga, in that sense, you can work on a physical, internal, personal part. But with group classes, I find this a bit more, that wall, that barrier is quite strong to me. What did you experience? And maybe you thought it through, and you managed to find a solution to pass this.
It is, you're absolutely right. Teaching online, whether it's yoga or dance, super difficult. I mean, at the moment I teach kids classes, obviously I try to stop and watch everyone, give a little bit of pointers, to everybody, so the kids feel like it's not just, me talking at them. I'm still looking at their ability and trying to correct. It is hard when it's like a lot of kids in the class. I mean, even if it's 10 kids, it's still quite difficult. And the yoga as well. And a lot of people don't really want the cameras on. They want a camera off, and so on. And this is why before, obviously, you always have to say, look, listen to your body, never push through any pain. Or if something feels uncomfortable, be good to yourself, be good to the body, and make sure what you do is not sort of harmful, to you. And I think so. During the lockdown, we obviously doing all the classes online for Soul Yoga with Ben, and my other teachers doing them too. And I think, but most of the members who we had prior to lockdown still doing our classes, so we kind of know them, and we they know us, and also we know the ability, and so we kind of like it's quite easy to figure it out, what needs to be done or said. When I also run like a 5 weeks beginner yoga courses, and I literally break down one by one every pose, alignment, modifications, if you have any pain or you have any sort of like a personal injuries or just body limitations, because that's the beauty about yoga. You can adapt a lot of poses. You can have the same or nearly the same impact on the body and joint, muscle, or organ with modifications. If you can't, obviously, and the thing is, what I think people don't understand, that there is yoga for everybody. If you have a body, you have a yoga class for you. You just need to find the right one. Yoga is not standing on your head. It is as well as other things. And you need to start, like, I think a lot of people also put off by Instagram and Facebook videos, because of course there is so many videos where people showing crazy things when they do yoga. It looks more like gymnastics rather than actual yoga.
Right.
It turns a lot of people off. When you start dancing, you not start doing advanced choreography, which a world finalist will do.
Exactly.
You start with basic step of cha-cha-cha, and not even basic step. You're just going to start with the steps forward, step back, side to side, or shuffle in place so you can move your hips. You start and you gradually progress. Same thing with yoga. You start with complete basic poses and you break them down and you do them for a while. You move to the next. And this is why I really love teaching those 5 weeks kind of beginner courses, because it's my chance to really kind of recruit new people into yoga and make them love it and make them feel that they can do it. Not doesn't matter what ability or disability they have. And I think that's important, to remember, because look, yoga exists for 5,000 years. It goes way back, nearly 5,000 years. And it's originated as the philosophy of living life, just like Buddhism or Hinduism. It's not just your poses. It's one of the aspects of yoga. And it's not even the first one. It's the fourth one on that kind of big system. It's called 8 limbs of yoga. It's like a big tree with the 8 limbs, with the 8 branches. And it starts like with the moral conduct to yourself, moral conduct to outside world, your pranayama, breath work, then your poses, then other things. And so it was created to heal the body within. Every pose has a bit of an impact on your organ, joint, or muscle. You squeeze it, you compress it, you stop blood circulation. And with a strong breath, when you come out of the pose, you bring that oxygenated blood into that area, and you obviously have all the processes speeding up and getting it better. In a very simple form, that's what happens. And so it's healing the body within without medicine, what we know is in medicine now. I always laugh when people saying, well, go to like, oh, why don't you try alternative ways? Like, why don't you try alternative medicine, like yoga or something? And it makes me so much, I laugh at it, because yoga is 5,000 years old and it's called alternative methods, where the actual medications, like 60, 70 years old, a lot of them.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, it's hard to teach online, but you kind of need to, I think, know your client. And there is a complete beginner, like when people sometimes email, I want to start yoga, what class do you recommend? I said, start, if you've never done anything, start with my beginner's course, because you don't want to be put off by a class which is completely out of your comfort zone, and you can hurt yourself, and then it's not going to do good to anybody. So
very interesting thought on this. Thank you. On the same subject of the online classes and the changes we've had for the last year, as we're recording today, we are the 12th of March, 2021. What did you find? So you said you opened your Wellbeing Center in 2019.
Yeah.
Right. So basically you just took it off the ground and you were just about to launch it, and then you more or less had to stop it.
That's been the hardest thing, because anybody who is a new business owner, that it takes 2 to 3 years to stabilize your business. We're not even talking about income. You just want to stabilize it so you stop getting losses, and then hopefully, recovering the investment. And then maybe after year 3, you start having sort of a profitable business. If you're talking about something like business, as far as in well-being or like yoga studios or dance studios, so not like a product based. And we started in June. We started in the worst time of the year, and it's again not because we wanted to do that. It's because when we took the place, it was kind of, we knew it's in a really terrible condition. But when we start really ripping it all off, because Ben has a bit of a background in building, and he was project managing, but when we start digging deeper into it, it was just in absolute terrible state. And so it took us 2 months longer than what we wanted to put into the refurbishment. So instead of opening in April and getting the whole kind of summer body, things going on, and bringing people like that into new studios, because obviously you have to build your reputation. It's not a given that people are just going to come and try your things. So yeah, instead of April, we'll open in June, when everybody's on holiday.
It's already on the beach. Exactly, yeah.
Exactly. And they don't really want to do anything. So it was really bad. And it was not really something we could manage, any other way. So we opened in June, and it was quite slow because it was summer and so on. But then in September, we started really picking up, and we really kind of saw that, people really enjoying what we've created there, that whole kind of well-being holistic place with lots of great styles of yoga and dance classes, obviously, as well, and heat classes and so on. It wasn't kind of your regular gym, because we're not really a gym. We have elements of that, but it's not really that at all. And we just started building up all that, and kind of momentum was good. And then we had really kind of great November, December, went for holidays, slower coming back. January slow, February was quite good. And then March we had to close, and it was it. So, and it was awful really, because it was so heartbreaking to do that, because we just start little bit getting that momentum of, people start talking about us, like bringing friends and so on. And then we had to close. Right. And so again, obviously we froze all the accounts. There was not like, memberships or anything like that going on, but we kind of just moved things online, and we just started offering classes online because everybody did. And then it was a 4 months in lockdown, opening back in August. Again, September, October was really awesome. So many like positive things were happening. People really kind of like start coming back to physical fit, because they wanted to see others. They wanted to be part of the community. And that's, for me, was more than anything important, to create a real community, like have, I have like well-being clinic every Friday on Zoom, where I just get people together and we talk about well-being subjects, and I have different people coming to us and talking about all sorts of things like nutrition, mental health, and the rest of it. And so it was, because it's my baby, my kind of business baby with Ben. So we not sort of a big company like Virgins or Nutfields, here. It's personal, and we want to make it personal. We want to know everybody who comes through our doors. So again, September, October was great. And then another lockdown in November. And then people, I'd rather probably stop now, because then there is a December and we're going to Christmas and stuff, let's go after holidays. I'll come back. And then after holidays, we're in the third lockdown, and we're still in lockdown. And it's just awful, really, because that whole scenario here with how the pandemic was handled really, really affected small businesses, small business owners, but also overall population mental health, which is really sad. It's really sad to see how much people struggle with inability to go somewhere and exercise together, because we're also in the worst, we were in the worst time of the year, January, February, when it's dark and cold. And they said, well, you can exercise outside, but I don't want to exercise outside, like, why would I? It's freezing,
Absolutely.
So it's been really tough. It's been tough for us, and it's been tough for people. So there is no way to put it in any other sort of perspective.
Okay. Usually the question I'm asking at this stage of the interview is, what did this situation and this lockdown bring you back as a positive thinking into your business? So you had a whole new thing. So my question for you will be, maybe back in America, when you came into Seattle and you were looking after the studio for your friend, Is there something that you got the vibe back that you sort of missed all those times, and you realize having your own business now is coming back to it? You remember some old memories from there?
Um, well, I don't know. Do you know what? Like, I used to look at all these people who own businesses,
Mm-hmm.
business owners, especially women. I was always so admiring. Like, I admire them so much. If a woman had a business and also had a family and the kids and so on. And I thought, wow, what an amazing like person. And I thought, like, how fabulous to like be able to be your own boss and do your own schedule and do your own things. And it was completely different in my head. When you have your own business, it's not that glossy whatsoever. It takes so much effort and so much perseverance and strength, to actually carry on and not give up, especially in situations like this.
Yeah, if you work part-time as a self-employed, it's 12 hours a day. It's not 3. That's usually part-time. It's 12 hours a day.
Exactly, you work around the clock because there is always something to do. And my first year was exactly that. I would sit until 2 a.m. in the morning doing all sorts of admin work and scheduling, marketing emails, and then putting schedule together on the app and all these kind of things, and thinking of the next content to put out there. And I would get up at 7. I'd take my child to, let's say, nursery school, and at 9 a.m. I already teach my first class, and all day long back to the same thing, 2 a.m. back to bed, because it just was not possible. And to like, you can't even pass it on to anybody, because when the business is so young, it's literally like a baby, like when the baby is very small, you can't give it to anybody. You have to be there for that baby, right? And only when the baby is a bit older, a few months in, you slowly can start maybe giving it to nanny, let's say, for an hour or two. And it's exactly how the business is. And like, I survived. I tell you exactly how I survived. I would go, let's say, after classes. I would come all day long. I teach evening class. I come home. I eat quickly, or sometimes not even eat. I would go and put Mila to bed, And so while I'm putting her to bed, she obviously had her milk bottle. And while she's sitting with me, I would fall asleep for like 10, 15 minutes. And I had a cat nap. That was my nap. After that nap, after she's asleep and I put her to bed, I would come down the kitchen and sit there until 2 a.m. And that's how I survived. That was my little naps, my mommy's naps, which literally carried me through. This is how
I had the same. When I moved back into Latvia, my son was 6 months old, and the same thing. He would not be able to sleep sometimes. So you literally have him on your chest. You have him on your chest, on your shoulders, you're holding the bottle, and then on your hand, you have your laptop, and you try to do everything at once. That's the best way to learn multitasking, I guess. I think I've got 2 questions left, maybe 3.
Cool.
Usually I finish with this question, but you have 2 hats. 3, I think, as a self-employed as well. But I think you've already given a bit of a background here. But as a dancer first, and maybe as a yoga teacher then, what do you take out of your dance training or yoga training that you can bring back into your everyday life? What do you think that makes you different than not normal people, but that people that don't dance necessarily?
I think when I started dancing, and I think a lot of people who kind of start with some sort of training, whatever it is, sport, dancing, acting, singing, whatever, when they start very young, you kind of develop that sense of strong personal discipline, which like you really learn how that there is things needs to be done, there is things needs to be achieved, there is small little goals every day, every week, the little competitions, let's say, when you're preparing as little girl or whatever, but there is that sense of that you need to complete it, you need to finish it, you cannot leave it, you cannot forget about it, you cannot let other people down, especially if you, let's say, training in a sport team or something like that, like
or even a couple,
Yeah, and with the dancing and the couple, like you, even if you're sick, but there is a competition, you represent your, let's say, school, or you represent your city, you have to go. And I danced no end of times when I was little with, I don't know, bad throats and even bad fever and all sorts of things. You have that sense of that there is something, there is a bigger purpose, and that kind of self-discipline really suited me well throughout my whole life, really. And I'm wired like that now. Like, I don't know any other way, nor I want to be fair, because it suits me. And I know that I need to complete XYZ today. Sometimes it works against me, actually, because I'm too hard on myself and I pile too many things on me. But I think that's what really kind of got me through a lot of things in life, and moving from one country to the other, which I've done twice. From like you yourself, how tough it is. From Russia to America, from America to the UK, not knowing anything about culture, not knowing anybody, still kind of have that strength and perseverance to continue, know why you're doing that there is a bigger goal and all of that. That was embedded in me when I was little, when I was a kid, and it really helped. And I think it's still there in my daily life, that sense of like that you can't let down others, you can't let yourself down. You have to just do certain.
There's a bigger picture. Yeah, there's a bigger picture behind you.
Yeah, and I think that comes for everything, the yoga and the dancing and anything, or in business, and some people say, oh, you have absolutely incredible sort of work ethic. And I said, well, it's how we all are, to be honest, more or less, in dance. Like every dancer I know who at least kind of competed on a certain level or got to a certain level, we all had to do it, and I have utmost respect for everyone, because I know how tough it is, and that's that. So it's how I think we're all wired in sport, and obviously dancing is a sport. So yeah.
Perfect answer. Thank you very much, Christina. Brilliant. So I think we can finish up with the last part of the podcast, which I call it quick fire round. I'm going to ask you 10 questions with one choice every time.
Yeah.
You have about 1 second to answer and see what you think. So let's go.
Okay, go.
Question number 1. Ballroom or Latin?
Latin.
Mountain or beach?
Beach.
Yoga or mambo?
Ooh, tough one. Yoga.
UK or LA?
LA.
Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix.
Strictly Come Dancing or Dancing with the Stars?
Strictly.
Borscht or fish and chips?
Borscht.
Cats or dogs?
Cats, although I have a dog. Not my choice.
Fair enough. Ross or Rachel?
Ooh, Rachel.
And last question, your best day ever?
When Mila was born.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Splendid. Thank you very much. No doubt. Straight to the point. That's definitely Christina for you. Just full on. That's great. Thank you very much, Christina. Just to finish off. So yeah, you said you have your wellbeing center. So if we want to get in touch with you, get in contact, how do we contact all this, and how can we find out your class and join your classes maybe?
Yeah, you can find it's just Google SOO yoga, yoga.com, and it will probably come up on all sorts of search engines. And of course, you can just look for my name. And if you find me on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, I can obviously help you out. But also in all my bios, I have tags for my So Yoga Center and So Yoga social pages. So you can find like that. SOO yoga, yoga.com. And yeah, join online classes. Why not? We have time now. Have a go.
Thank you. Brilliant. I'll put all the link in the description of the podcast as well, so people can just click on there.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That's great.
Thank you.
Well, Christina, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No worries, mate. It's
gold interviews.
Yeah, that's absolutely a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Thanks. Bye.